Good morning, everyone. I hope your week has been well and life has been treating you great. Today, we will be continuing on from last week's educational video on how marketers market to consumers, and today we will be discussing in depth 5 ways marketers can use behavioral science to change consumer behavior. Sit back, grab some popcorn and a pen, and enjoy. I'm Sahela, and you're watching SousClassroom. The 5 theories we will be discussing today, along with going into depth on case studies, are the anchoring theory, cognitive psychology, prospect theory, asymmetric dominance, and associations and priming theory, concluding with why ethical considerations are important. So first off, we have the anchoring theory. The anchoring effect is a cognitive bias that describes the common human tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information offered, the anchor, when making decisions. During decision making, anchoring occurs when individuals use an initial piece of information to make subsequent judgments. Once an anchor is set, other judgments are made by adjusting away from that anchor, and there is a bias towards interpreting other information around the anchor. We tend to use a single piece of information to inform decisions, and we heavily rely on the single first piece of info we have, and then adjust around the anchor even if it is incorrect or has no bearing on the answer at all. Therefore, we are biased based on this information. The way marketers use anchoring to encourage consumer traffic is through the dramatic price drop. Even if the object we buy is not on sale, we feel as if we are a value-based shopper because that is the information we have anchored around. Price anchors in restaurants, example, are lunch specials, recommended tips by restaurants on receipts, pricing of new products, like the Apple Watch, social media boycotts, fake news, they like to take advantage of this. The limit of 2 per person, people probably wouldn't buy it now because it is obviously desired. A case study that uses the anchoring theory is when Ed Rendell became mayor of Philadelphia in 1992. City workers were among the most highly compensated municipal employees in the country, and the city had an annual budget of $250 million. Rendell knew the employees' unions could make concessions, but that convincing them to do so would be very difficult. As reported in the New York Times, before negotiations even started, Rendell publicly repeated almost daily his pledge to balance the city's budget and endure a strike if necessary. These statements enabled him to commit to his challenging goal, and Rendell offered union workers a contract that, among other things, froze their wages for 33 months. The workers went on strike, but accepted the offer just 16 hours later. Over the next 4 years, the contract saved an estimated $374 million for the city. This is one case study of how the anchoring effect could be used to boost sales and win negotiations. The next theory is the cognitive psychology theory. It is a specific study of the mind used as an information processor. Cognitive psychologists try to build up cognitive models of the information processing that goes on inside people's minds, including perception, attention, language, memory, thinking, and consciousness. The closer we are to achieving our goal, the more motivated we are. Even if our progress is an illusion, we are more motivated. One strength of the cognitive approach is it has always employed highly controlled and rigorous methods of study in order to enable researchers to infer cognitive processes at work. This has involved the use of lab experiments to produce reliable, objective data. The cognitive approach is probably the most dominant approach in psychology today and has been applied to a wide range of practical and theoretical contexts. A case study which uses the cognitive psychology theory is the coffee card illusion. 12 stamps to get a free coffee with 2 pre-stamped is more motivating to consumers than 10 stamps to get a free coffee with none pre-stamped. This is one of many ways cognitive psychology is used in marketing to consumers and learning their behaviors. So now we're up to our 3rd theory used in behavioral science to change consumer behavior. It is called the prospect theory. Prospect theory is loss aversion. It is when a loss is more painful than an equivalent gain. An example is consumers are more motivated to lose $100 than to win $100. We feel less sensitive to wealth as the value rises. As the noticeable difference decreases, so does our reaction to it. An example, again, is consumers will feel much more passionate about a loss of $50 if they started with the 100 than if they started with the 1,000. Our reference starting point will determine our satisfaction. We react to an outcome of wealth or loss differently depending on where we started. A case study in which uses prospect theory is how marketers use reference points to encourage consumer spend. It's a hot day at the beach. You want a chilled drink. There are two options presented to consumers to get the same chilled drink, which is a fancy restaurant and a convenience store. The fancy restaurant is $6 and the convenience store is just $3.50. Our second last theory is the asymmetric dominance theory. The decoy effect or asymmetric dominance effect is a great marketing tool. The decoy effect is defined as the phenomenon whereby consumers change their preference between two options when presented with the third option, the decoy, that is asymmetrically dominated. It is also referred to as the attraction effect or asymmetric dominance effect. An example is the two pictures of the popcorn at a movie theatre. Would your choice change? The medium is a price decoy. The idea is to make the large less expensive and more approachable or value for money. A case study in which used asymmetric dominance is one conducted by behavioural economist Dan Ariely, who tested pricing on 100 of his students. In one scenario, the students had a choice of a web-only subscription or a print-only subscription for twice the price. 68% chose the cheaper web-only option. They were given a third option, a web and print subscription for the same price as the print-only option. Now, just 16% chose the cheaper option, with 84% opting for the obviously better combined option. In this second scenario, the print-only option had become the decoy and the combined option the target. Even the economist was intrigued by Ariely's finding, mentioning the importance of irrelevant alternatives. Why would you choose a digital-only subscription when you can get the weekend paper delivered for no extra cost? Alrighty, you've made it this far. Our final theory is the associations and priming theory. When we are exposed to an idea or stimuli, we think about associated memories, feelings, or our experiences. An example of this is talking about the elderly. We will walk slower, force our faces into a smile with a pencil in your teeth, and you'll find jokes funnier. Every associated idea evokes more associated ideas, memories, or feelings. This associated mechanism is why mind mapping is such a powerful tool in creative thinking. We rely heavily on our history of experience and associations, such as the simpler the music, the colour, the story, the easier it is to relate. This is why we like simple song beats. We can quickly understand them, remember, and then recognise them as well. Another example is a simple change in music can also quickly change our mood, and that's why soundtracks are so important as we recognise how we should feel. Ignore the room change and the clothing change. But a case study in which he uses this theory is a DIY store in Germany which pumped out the smell of cut grass near their outdoor deck and apple pie in kitchen appliances. Their sales went up by 33%. Another case study is Nike Town. They use vibrant jogging music that boosts brand recognition. The tempo will influence your body and mood as you recognize your body's reactions when in a similar situation as the sound. Slow tempo will slow you down, upbeat speeds you up, classic is premium, top 40 is trend, and so on. Now that we're getting towards the end, I will go into briefly about why ethical considerations are important. So ethical considerations are important because they can provide leaders not only with a better understanding of how human dynamics shape cultural contexts, but they also are new scientific ways to influence workplace behaviour and nurture a healthy workplace cultural context. Behavioural ethics studies why people make the ethical and unethical decisions that they do in order to gain insights into how people can improve their individual ethical decision-making capacities and promote ethical culture in organisations. Its findings show that people are often influenced subconsciously by psychological biases, organisational and social pressures, and situational factors that impact decision-making, which can lead to unethical action. Well, that concludes our educational session on 5 ways marketers can use behavioural science to change consumer behaviour. I hope you learned something today and can use these points in the future. For more educational videos, like and subscribe to my channel. Have a great day, guys!